So the Rebels Season 2 finale is tomorrow, and I am extremely excited, so I decided I would get on here and kind of display some of my predictions, and for this video we'll be going character by character and talk about some of the things that I think will be happening with them, if they'll die, and what kind of arcs they could be experiencing in the season finale of Rebels. Of course, I will try to get my predictions as spot on as possible, and with that comes possible spoilers. Now, I haven't read anything that potentially spoils it. I just have a few things that I have in mind on how it could play out, given some of the things that we've seen in the past and some descriptions. So keep that in mind before you watch the video. Although, like I said, none of these are confirmed spoilers. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first character I'd like to discuss is Darth Vader. Now, it has been said by Dave Filoni that Darth Vader really doesn't have any love for Ahsoka anymore, and that in an odd way he's kind of angry with her. And of course, we know that the highlight of this two-part episode is going to be the duel between Ahsoka and Vader. It also seems as though Vader's arrival in what I assume to be the second part of the episode comes as quite a surprise to the Ghost crew, including Ahsoka, and that will leave her ill-prepared for the duel, and that of course is neglecting the fact that Vader on his own, even if he's prepared against, is still extremely formidable. The duel that we will be seeing in this episode, I do not see honestly going in Ahsoka's favor. Whether she lives or dies we'll touch on a little bit later, but I don't see any way that she wins without some type of treachery or some help from others. To talk about Vader living or dying would honestly be quite pointless, because he is alive in the time of A New Hope, and of course episode 5 and 6, and Rebels takes place before that. So to talk about him dying is pointless because we know he lives. The big question is who he will potentially kill in this episode. So now let's talk about the big one that everyone is freaking out over. Will Ahsoka die? Now, the title of the episode is The Twilight of the Apprentice, or Twilight of the Apprentice. And this, of course, hints at Ahsoka being the past apprentice of Darth Vader, her possible demise, and I assume that if she will die in this episode, it will definitely be by Vader's hand. We did see in the trailer that Ahsoka and Vader are actually dueling, and as I said earlier, I am almost positive this takes place in part 2 of this episode and not part 1, since the description says the Ghost crew, or Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka, actually fight off against the Inquisitors in the first part of the episode, and then the arrival of Vader really offsets everything, and Ahsoka is forced to engage with her former master. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is the last episode that we will see of Ahsoka. I know that's something really hard to swallow, and I honestly don't want to see it either, because Ahsoka is a great character, but I think it's pretty much time to kill her off, and the only way to do that is with Darth Vader, and it would give a very, very sad ending to Ahsoka's story, and we have to remember that not every character in Star Wars is going to be able to have a happy ending. That's just how it works. Not only do I think Ahsoka's death could benefit her as a character and end that story perfectly with her former master that cared about her a great deal in the Clone Wars eventually actually being the one to kill her, but I also think it will put Ezra in a very, very offsetting position with Darth Maul, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But overall, I just think Ahsoka's death is imminent. We all know it's coming. She's not in A New Hope, which doesn't make much sense if she was alive, so it's obviously the logical conclusion that she did die, and I also think that Vader is the logical one to kill her, and overall I'm very sad about it, but I think it's the wise choice from a storytelling standpoint. Next, we'll talk about Darth Maul. Now, Darth Maul also being an apprentice, Twilight of the Apprentice, could mean his death because he was the apprentice for a time for Darth Sidious before he was eventually betrayed and then sort of resurrected, more like found by Savage Opress, and brought back to his normal state of mind. The title of the episode could indicate Maul's death as well, him being an apprentice, as I said, to Sidious. It could indicate his twilight and his imminent death, but I do not, however, think this is going to play out this way, because Darth Maul, he's a very popular character, he's a fan favorite, and I don't think it would be the wise move to reintroduce Darth Maul and show this relationship that he might have with Ezra that we've been seeing, and then take that away right away. That's not the smart move. Instead, what I think will happen is he will kind of replace Ahsoka in the role and being the bad manipulator rather than the good role model that Ezra can look up to. He will take the place of Ahsoka, but he will oddly become the anti-Ahsoka, and that's how I think Darth Maul's story as far as the season 2 will end. I do think that he will eventually meet his death, possibly at the hands of Darth Vader, but I don't think that that will come till possibly even the season finale of season 3. So now we've come to another one of the big ones, Ezra. Now obviously Ezra will not be dying because in my view, and I assume a lot of other people's, he is the main character of Rebels. A big possibility for Ezra is that the title of the episode could be referring to him and not Ahsoka or Darth Maul at all. What Twilight of the Apprentice could actually be referring to is Ezra, because twilight, actually the definition of it, is the period of the evening when twilight takes place, between daylight and darkness. This could mean Ezra's transition from light to dark. We've seen Ezra try to experiment a little bit in the dark side, kind of using his abilities for more darker aspects, and we've seen he has a real affinity for the Force, and he's quite an aggressive individual, actually. So that's what that means. I think that this episode will be the transition from Ezra from light to dark, or at least the beginning of that transition. And of course, Darth Maul will be the character to give Ezra that push to the dark, and like I said earlier, he could be taking the place of Ahsoka, because Ahsoka has been this pinnacle for Ezra, a person that he can look up to, and with her possible death, it will switch over to Maul, and instead of being a good example, they will be someone like Darth Maul who will be an example for the dark side of the Force rather than one for the light. So those are the big 4 characters in the episode, and we're going to go over briefly the other ones being Kanan, the 7th sister, the 5th brother, and the Mystery Inquisitor, but since I don't see them playing this huge role in this episode, we'll be focusing significantly less time on them, but we will briefly touch on them. I see Kanan playing a role that he usually plays. It doesn't seem like Ezra and Kanan will be together a lot during this episode. It seems possibly even Ezra is separated from the rest of the group. I think Kanan will mostly not have a lot of time focused on him, but that he will be part of the duels, and he may even assist Ahsoka in their duel with Vader, and I think that he will be engaging in a duel with the 5th brother and the Mystery Inquisitor, but that's about it. I don't see him going through any huge arc in this episode. So the 7th sister, if any character is going to die in this episode beside Ahsoka, I would put my money on the 7th sister. She's someone who has formed a consistent rivalry with Ezra, and we know Ezra really doesn't like her in the slightest. We can actually see Ezra in some of the promos torturing the 7th sister. Now, I don't think that Ezra will take that step and actually kill the 7th sister. I think he will fail, and then Darth Maul will ultimately take that step and kill the 7th sister. At the same time, though, I don't think Ezra will be too disappointed with this course of action, since we've seen before he hates the Inquisitors, especially the 7th sister, but I think that this will be the end for her, although I did really enjoy her as a villain in this season, and she might end up living. I just don't think that that's kind of the course of action that Darth Maul will take, because we've seen him in the promos talk about how he doesn't like the Inquisitors, how they're his enemies, and since we see both Ezra and Maul with only the 7th sister, it's not looking too good for her. So the last 2 we have are the 5th brother and the Mystery Inquisitor. Basically, what I would like to say about them is I think they will be defeated by Ezra, Kanan, Ahsoka, and maybe intervention from Maul, but the 5th brother and Mystery Inquisitor will make it out alive. The 5th brother hasn't had a ton of development, and this new Inquisitor hasn't had any, so that's why I think they'll leave alive. Other than that, there's not much to say about the Inquisitors, of course. I think they'll be defeated, but that's about it. They'll be able to leave alive once Vader arrives, and maybe even assist Vader in his duel with Ahsoka, but something tells me that Vader wants to take on Ahsoka one-on-one. So there you have it. Those are my predictions less than 24 hours before the Season 2 finale of Rebels comes out. I am very excited. I cannot wait. Expect a review for it immediately after, and maybe after that we'll take an even more in-depth look at it if you guys really want to. But expect a review immediately following the season finale, and I can't wait to look back on this video as well and see what I got right and see what I got wrong. I hope you guys enjoyed. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.